Welcome to part 1 of the National School Lunch Program Overview. So the United States Department of Agriculture, which we also know as USDA, Food and Nutrition Service, offers several different child nutrition programs to address the nutritional needs of children and adults. What we're going to focus mostly on in this overview is the National School Lunch Program, and you'll see it abbreviated as NSLP. Under the NSLP is housed the After School Care Snack Program and the Seamless Summer Option, which we'll talk about more in just a few moments. Most schools also offer the School Breakfast Program, in addition to the lunch program. There's also the Special Milk Program that's available. These are for schools that may not offer a full lunch program. Maybe they have their students bring their own lunch from home, but they offer a carton of milk for students to buy during the lunch time, so they can get reimbursed for those milks that they serve. USDA also oversees the Child and Adult Care Food Program, also known as CACFP. This is a program we're not going to focus too much on. It's similarly run to the school lunch program, but it focuses on daycare centers, child care centers, and then those adult care centers that are serving meals and they receive reimbursement for them. And last is the Summer Food Service Program. So this is similar to the Seamless Summer Option. They both essentially serve summer meals to students outside of the normal academic year. They differ in how they're reimbursed at the school level. We're not going to get into all of those nuances, but just know they both essentially serve kids in the summertime. So how do the child nutrition programs, how are they administered? Well, the USDA administers the program at the federal level. And then the USDA FNS communicates regulations with each state agency. This state agency will vary on the state, could either be with the Department of Education or maybe even the Department of Agriculture. And that state agency administers the program through agreements with schools around their state. Schools are known, or the terminology that's used are called sponsors, or school food authorities, or SFAs. So you might see the terminology SFA or sponsor throughout different documentation if you were to read more into the school lunch program. And those essentially go back to the true meaning of what the school. So how do they work? So the SFAs, or schools, are reimbursed for properly operating the school lunch and school breakfast program. There are specific rules and regulations that they have to follow in regards to how they count meals that are served and then claiming those meals for reimbursement. This is typically done at the end of the month, depending on the state that you're living in and how they set up their reimbursement system. But schools are responsible for setting up what's called a point of service, sometimes seen as a POS, to correctly count students as they come through the line. And that counting system will also determine whether that child is free, reduced, or paid, meaning does that child pay for a meal at all? Is that child getting that meal for free? Or maybe they're getting that meal at a reduced price. In addition to counting and claiming correctly, schools have to serve meals that meet USDA nutrition standards. And we'll get into those in a little bit more detail later. Schools have school children and families attending a school that participate in school lunch will fill out a free and reduced application each school year. This application usually contains information such as the amount of individuals that are living in the household and the amount of money each of those members of the household brings in, either on a weekly, monthly, or yearly basis. Depending on the level of income that is recorded on these applications, will then determine if that child receives reduced meals for the school year, free meals for the school year, or if they pay full price of whatever the school is charging for a full-priced meal. So what's the cutoff? How would one know if they get a reduced or free meal? Well, it has to do with the amount that they make in regards to the poverty level. So a reduced meal, that family would need to make between 130 to 185% above poverty line. And that may not mean a lot. So here's an example. As of right now, a family of 4 that makes around $4,600 to $3,200 a month would qualify for reduced meals. In a free meal situation, that family would need to make 130% or below the poverty line. So in that same example of a family of 4, they would need to make $3,250 a month or below to qualify for free meals. So a few statistics on how many individuals and how many students are impacted by the National School Lunch Program. We find that almost half of all lunches served to students throughout the United States are provided free to students. So that tells you that there are a number of households that are participating in the National School Lunch Program that are living below 130% below poverty, or 130% of the poverty line. 10% of those students are provided meals at a reduced price, and around 94% of schools throughout the country, both public and private, choose to participate in the school lunch program. And that's an important thing to note, as participation in the school lunch program is not a national requirement. This is a decision made by a district or a school itself to determine if they want to participate and receive reimbursement for meals that they serve to their students. There are some schools out there that choose not to participate. Maybe they have their students bring their own meals from home. They choose to serve meals maybe that are catered because they don't necessarily want to adhere to or worry about the nutrition standards that are in place in order to receive reimbursement for school meals. And school lunch accounts for about 17% of the total federal expenditures for all food and nutrition assistance programs. So it's not a substantial amount, but it is nothing to dismiss, as it does have a fair amount of money that is provided for reimbursement to the schools that choose to participate in the school lunch program. One last thing, and we'll get into this a little bit more in subsequent videos, is I did mention there was that meal pattern or meal nutrition standards. Well, the nutrition standards come back to a meal pattern, and they do have requirements of what needs to be served on a daily basis. So schools are required to plan a minimum serving size for each of the 5 components at lunch. And those components are listed in the boxes on the screen. So we have fruit, vegetable, grains, meat or meat alternate, and milk. On a weekly basis, schools are required to plan minimum servings of grains, meat alternate, fruit and vegetable variety over the course of the week. We will get into more detail of these serving sizes and requirements in a subsequent video.